Hello, and welcome to our neighborhood preparedness meeting. This meeting will actually be live tomorrow, Sunday, September 15th. We're going to hold this meeting at our local church building, but today is Saturday, September 14th, and I thought it would be a good idea to just record the information that will be in this training tomorrow for those of you who are not able to attend this training live. This training, again, is for all of our block captains, our zone leaders, um, and really any neighbor who wants to prepare their family for a disaster. We are working on our emergency preparedness plan for our neighborhood, and this meeting is part of that effort to prepare each household for the upcoming emergencies that may occur in our area. So welcome. My name is Krista Pace. I've lived in this neighborhood for about 20 years. It's going to be 20 years this November. And I have really grown to love the area and all of my neighbors, all of you. And I'm so glad that you are taking the time out of your day to prepare your family for the possibility that we might have something happen in our neighborhood that might disrupt our power, our sewers, our everyday life. And so I welcome you today and hope that this information that we share will be helpful for you. The agenda for this meeting is pretty simple. We're going to do a quick block captain training. We have 22 blocks in our neighborhood, and so we have 22 plus block captains. I'm still looking for a couple block captains, so if you're interested in serving as a block captain, please reach out to me. I would love to put you to work if you're interested in helping in this effort. Then after the training, we're going to talk a little bit about neighborhood communication in emergencies. Like, how are we going to communicate with each other? I'll kind of share with you what's in our current neighborhood preparedness plan and emergency communications plan. And then I am going to let you know a little bit about West Jordan City the city's upcoming drill. They're going to have a emergency communication drill on September 30th. So I'm going to share a few things about that drill coming up if you're interested in participating in that drill. And as part of that drill, our neighborhood is going to be doing a drill earlier. So we're going to be doing our drill on the 28th of September in preparation for the city's drill on the 30th. And then we're just going to go through a few scenarios and practice what it might be like to show up for your neighbors, whether you're showing up as a block captain or maybe your block captain's not available and you really want to help your neighbors. So we're just going to go through a few practice things, how we could communicate the need in our neighborhood. So let's start with our block captain training. First of all, I just want to thank all of you who have volunteered to be block captains. Our emergency preparedness and response plan really is dependent upon neighbors that care about each other. To be a block captain, really, it's pretty simple. We just have to prepare our families and then have a heart to look out for our neighbors. That's what block captains are. So I really appreciate those of you who have stepped up and said that you are willing to be a block captain. And again, if you are interested in being a block captain, you haven't let me know yet, I promise we will have a place for you, whether it's just being an assistant or training as a block captain, just in case your block captain is not available. So let me know if you're interested in getting some more information about that. So let's talk about the block captain roles. What is the role of a block captain? It's a lot more simple than you may think. First, we have preparedness roles. So our block captains are going to help prepare our neighborhood for a disaster. First, you need to prepare your own household. What does this look like? It looks like getting your 72-hour kits ready, having a plan for your own family, working on your water storage, your food storage, anything that your family might need to take care of your own household in an emergency. That's really, really important. So if you're signed up as a block captain, or even if you're not, preparing your household is one of the most important things you can do. Next is to review our neighborhood emergency plan. Did you know that we have a plan for our neighborhood? At the meeting on Sunday, we're going to have QR codes for each of these opportunities. So if you need to prepare your household, we have a newsletter that we put out every month with a few ideas on how you can prepare your family. So we'll have a QR code for the newsletter. We also have a QR code for our emergency plan. So if you are already a block captain, you will receive a booklet, just like a folder with some information in it. And that booklet will have the QR codes for each of these things we talk about today. So again, the prep page, our neighborhood emergency newsletter to help prepare your household, and then our emergency plan. I encourage you to read through it. I simplified it really. I really tried to make it as simple as possible. There's a lot of graphics and it's only 10 pages long. Most of those pages are just big graphics and charts. So it's not something that's going to take a long time to read. So enjoy our neighborhood emergency plan and get to kind of know the process of what we're going to do to take care of each other. The third thing is to attend trainings. If you're able to attend our first training on Sunday, that's fantastic. We're going to hold two block captain trainings every year. And again, I am going to put these trainings online for those of you who are unable to attend live, so you can get all the information that you need just by the recordings. So attend the trainings, get to know, get familiar with the processes of being a block captain. And then the fun part is getting to know your block. Our blocks consist of between four to five to 8 to 9 homes. So it's usually 4 to 9 homes. So get to know your neighbors, reach out to them, become friends with them. The more we develop relationships with our neighbors, the more likely they are going to be to reach out if they're in need of help. And they'll be able to reach out to you if you're in need of help too. So I just think it's really great for us to get to know our neighbors. Our neighbors come from all walks of life, and it's so fun to really get to know each other. And another thing that goes along with this is it's really helpful as a block captain to have all of the numbers, the phone numbers of the people that are in your block in your phone. So if there's an emergency and maybe you're out of town or something and you want to check on your block, you'll have all of those phone numbers already accessible in your phone. Also, if there's a house that you don't know if they're okay or not, you can always call them in an emergency and just check on them that way. So really good to have phone numbers saved in your phone if possible. And then just get the word out. Our block captains are going to help us get the word out about all of our preparedness events that we have. We're hoping to have one preparedness event a quarter, whether that's a preparedness fair or a food storage night or a water storage night, or just we're going to have lots of different activities to help individual families prepare. So we will be relying on our block captains to help us hand out invitations and notices. When you do get a packet of invitations from your zone leader to pass out to your block, you don't necessarily have to go door to door. You can if you want to, and that's fantastic. Or you can just take a picture of the invite and text it to the people on your block. It really doesn't matter how you get the word out. You are just responsible for letting your block know when our events are going to take place. And then we're going to have communication drills. And so this is something we're still putting together. Our big first communication drill is going to be on the 28th of September prior to the city's drill. But these communication drills, I'm hoping to have at least one a month. We're going to choose a day and a time and just practice our communication. So the way our communication is set up, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but our block captains notify our zone leaders. Our zone leaders talk to our communication specialist, who is a ham radio operator, and then he's going to talk to our area and our stake authorities, who will talk to the cities. So we're going to be getting lots of communication during a disaster event. So getting used to the flow of communication is really going to be helpful as we prepare for emergencies. And then be creative. Do what you can to reach out to your neighbors. If you want to have your own block party and talk about emergency preparedness, that's fantastic. You can reach out to them and find out what access they have to tools that we might need in our neighborhood. You can find out who's home during the day, who's not. You can kind of keep an eye on the homes in the area, get to know all the information so that if, disasters happen at random times. It could happen in the middle of the night. It could happen during the day when many people are at work. So the more you know about your block and the neighbors on your block and where they are, the better it will be to secure the safety of your block after an emergency. So be creative. You can have people over if you want to, and if you don't want to, that's totally okay. Like if you're not into being super social and having all the people over, it's not required to be a block captain. So really, I just encourage you to be creative, find ways that you can reach out to your neighbors and find out information that will help you take care of your block. So now that we've talked about the block captain preparedness roles, we're going to talk about the emergency response roles. So this is once a disaster takes place, what does a block captain do? The first thing, I tell this to all of my neighbors, put your shoes on. There's so many people that can get injured right after an emergent event, whether it's an earthquake or water outage or whatever, if they don't have their shoes on. So put your shoes on, very first thing, if there's a disaster and your shoes are not already on. And then assess your personal safety. Make sure that you are safe, that your family is safe. You can use the emergency cards that are in your emergency packet and put them on the front door. That's really helpful to be a good example for all your neighbors. Put your card on the door. If everything's great in your home, put that green card on your door so everybody knows that your home is safe. You also need to assess the structural safety of your home. So in the event that we have an earthquake, if there's any structural damage or gas leaks or water breaks, water leaks, make sure you take care of those things first. If your home is not safe to stay in, then you will need to take your family and your 72-hour kits that you have readily accessible, of course, to a neighbor's house, or you can bring them to the church parking lot. That's where we're going to probably have our incident command center, so we can help you get your family secure. As a block captain, the most important role in the emergency response is to make sure you're okay and your family's okay. You are not in the mindset to help other people if you are not in a good place. So I really encourage you to make sure that you're safe and your family's safe before you move on to others. But then once that happens and your family's secure, your home's secure, you are in a good place to start helping other people. So we encourage you to use your block captain assessment form and assess your assigned block. Hopefully, because you've been communicating with the neighbors in your area, you have encouraged them to put their cards, their communication cards, on their doors. So you can look for the red communication cards very first. Those are your emergencies, and go over to those homes, assess the emergency, and contact your zone leader about that emergency right away. Those are the things we need to take care of very first. We're going to be putting task teams together through the incident command center to help take care of those people with red card needs. That could be bleeding, there's significant bleeding or shock or significant water damage or a gas leak, some of those things that need extra help that are emergencies, whether it's to your personal health or to the structure of the home. If there's something that we can do, we need to assess those things first. Then you can go to the yellows and check on the yellow carded people. You can also check on those who don't have any cards posted. You can call those people, and it's possible that they're not home and that's why they didn't post their card. Or maybe they are home and they are injured and they just are not able to post that card. So just knocking on the door and yelling, through the window if you can, and seeing if anybody's home, listen to see if anybody's calling for help, just to double check and see if that home is safe. I don't recommend that you go into that home unless you know the structural. It's kind of a little, we don't want to put anybody in danger. So just do all you can from the outside of the home and listen to see if anybody's yelling for help. And if we need to, we can get some people over there to assist. There may also be people that post black cards. If they have anyone who has died in the emergency, they might post a black card. If you're comfortable, you can go and assess who has died. We would need to report the age and the gender of the person who has passed away and the home, if that's possible. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, just report that there is somebody deceased in that home to your zone leader, and we will send a team out to help assess that situation. And then once you've communicated all of that to your zone leader, your zone leader is going to communicate that to our communication specialist at the Incident Command Center, our Emergency Management Command Center, and send task teams to help you. I recommend that you just stay available to your block. Your zone leader might call you and ask you to join a task team to help somebody with the water damage in their home. Or you may want to continue to kind of walk around your home and see if anybody posts a different color on their house. You can just reach out to your neighbors and see what you can do to help. I recommend for at least 24 to 48 hours that block captains kind of stay in their block if possible, so they can help the task teams that are sent to serve in that area. Once that's over, and if you're still stable and able to serve, you can report to the Emergency Management Command Center, and we will give you another job to do. We're going to have food leaders and sanitation leaders and lots of things, lots of people assigned to first aid or to taking care of children, or there's just a lot of opportunities to serve if you're interested based on your talents, the things you like to do, we can put you to work. So stay available to your block for the first 24 or 48 hours. And if the response for an emergency is going to last weeks to months, we could definitely use your help if you're available. So that's just the simple block captain training. We're going to have a lot more access and learn a little more as we go, as we continue forward. Now we're going to talk about how our neighborhood communications will work during an emergency. This next chart that you see here is available if you scan the QR code for our neighborhood emergency plan. This basically just shows how block captains, zone leaders, and the communication specialist work, how they communicate with each other after an emergent event. So you can see here we have 22 blocks in our neighborhood. Each of those blocks are assigned a block captain, sometimes 2 block captains and an assistant. So it's really helpful to have multiple people. If we don't have a block captain available, then any neighbor can step up as a block captain. Every person who has received an emergency preparedness packet with all the colored cards also has a block captain assist form that they can use if they need to step up as the block captain. They also have the phone number of their zone leader posted on their packet. So everybody should have that information if you need to step up and be a block captain. So again, we have 22 block captains plus, which is awesome. And then they are going to communicate with a zone leader. So we have organized our neighborhood into 6 zones. Each zone has between 3 and 4 blocks. So we have 3 to 4 block captains who will report to each zone leader, and then those 6 zone leaders will be reporting to our communication specialist in our neighborhood. And our communication specialist is Dave Butterfield, and he's our ham radio operator. So the reason that he will get all the information about the safety of the people and the safety of the homes and the structures of the homes and any other problems that may be occurring, whether it's on the streets or if there's damage to the bridge, if the bridge is out, or any kind of things that we need to report to the city, we will be reporting to our communication specialist. So the communication specialist then, you can kind of see here, we'll talk to our neighborhood emergency coordinator who will be stationed at the Emergency Management Command Center. And we'll also talk to the state communication specialist who talks to the city. And that's why we have to have this communications person in our neighborhood, so we can make sure that the city gets access to all of our information as well. This is just another view of kind of what it looks like from the point of view of our neighborhood. So again, at the top, you have our ward communications specialist, our ham radio operator, and he's going to talk to our incident commander and with assistance at the command center. So if the disaster that we have lasts a long time, so if we're out of power for a long time, or if we don't have access to sewers, or if it's a big earthquake and roads are down, there's a possibility that it may take a long time for the city to actually arrive to help. And so in that case, we would kind of expand our command center to fit the needs of the people in our neighborhood. So we may need a medical leader to take care of the medical needs in our neighborhood if we don't have access to a hospital. We may need a food leader to help if we have a lot of people out of their homes. May need to have a facilities leader to help us create facilities for people to stay in or live in. We might have to have a sanitation leader to help us figure out our sanitation. Our next training that we do on a big scale is going to be again about sanitation. I think one of the biggest things we need to train on, whether it's in our individual homes or as a big group, is we really need to take care of our sanitation needs to keep other diseases from happening after an emergency, especially after an earthquake. We could have a transportation leader if we needed to take people to the hospital and they had, a big enough truck or something. If we don't have ambulance services, there's a lot of things that we may need to develop as the longer that a disaster moves forward. So we are going to be putting together this command center to help our neighborhood and to communicate with the city so that we just know that the city won't be able to take care of all of our needs for quite a while after an emergency. So that's kind of the goal, is that we can be kind of self-sufficient in our neighborhood based on our resources. We have a lot of neighbors who have talents. We have nurses and EMTs, and we have firemen, and we've got construction workers, and we have childcare, people that do childcare and preschool, and like there's just a lot of talents that we have in our neighborhood. So if we can kind of come together and share our talents, we can really take care of each other long term. And that's what this plan is based around. Just talking about our order of communications again. So again, our block captains communicate with our zone leaders. Our zone leaders communicate with the communication specialist. Then that communication specialist will talk to the emergency command center. This also goes backwards. Once a task team is assigned to a specific red house, right? The emergency command center will reach out to the zone leader and say, hey, let your block captain from block 1 know that we're sending a task team to help with their red medical problem in this house. And then that block captain can be there and ready to receive that task team and to help and assist as needed. When we talk about methods of communication, if our phones are still working, having a phone call or a text is a great option. Some people say that texting is a little better than phone calls after an emergency. A lot of the lines kind of get really busy after an emergent event. Everybody's trying to use the phone lines. Sometimes texts will go through more quickly. Excuse me. But if there are no phone lines, it is really good. And I recommend that all the block captains and zone leaders have access to a two-way radio. You can just get a FRS or a GMRS radio. I recommend, if you can find an FRS, a family radio service, you don't need a license to operate the FRS little walkie-talkies. Usually they have like a 2-mile radius. So they'd be great for just using in our neighborhood. And I recommend getting the ones with the security channels. We're going to try to be on channel 4 with the security channel 4, and then we may switch to another channel if that channel's too busy. But you can also get a GMRS, which has a little bigger range, and that stands for General Mobile Radio Service. It does require a license, but they are a little more effective. So if you're interested in that, you can do that as well. We are going to have a ham radio operator. I'm hoping to certify as a ham radio operator soon. If any of you are interested in becoming a ham radio operator with me, it might be fun to put a study group together and just have a few of us available. Ham radios, you can kind of communicate anywhere. They're a lot more useful if you need to communicate with somebody who's farther than 2 miles away, line of sight, right? And then, of course, our neighborhood's pretty small, so we could just have runners. If we don't have a phone or texting ability, if we don't have radios, You can always find someone who is in a greenhouse who is okay and stable, and send them with your written report to your zone leader, or you can send them to the command center. We're hoping to set up the command center in the church parking lot until we have access to the church building. But if it's bad weather and that's not available, we may set up the command center in one of our homes. Or so we will communicate where the command center is to all the zone leaders, and they'll let the block captains know. So if you need to send a runner to the command center, you're able to do that as well. So phone or text, two-way radios, runners. Those are great methods of communication. And just a couple expert block captain tips. As you're building relationships with your block, I encourage you to remind them to keep their communication cards somewhere close to their door so they can post it right after an event. The more quickly we communicate our well-being, whether it's our personal well-being, the well-being of our families, the more quickly we'll be able to assess the stability of our neighborhood. So that's what I'm hoping, is that everybody will keep those communication cards close to their door. They'll know where to access it. We'll practice it, and then they can communicate really quickly how their family is doing and how their home is doing. Also, I recommend that you get a if you have a really good relationship with your block and you have their phone number and they have your phone number and they're not home during an emergency, I recommend that you ask them to just give you a call. If they're not home and able to post something on their door and there's an emergency that happens, you can reach out to them or they can reach out to you. It'd be really helpful if we had everybody just kind of take personal responsibility and reach out to their block captains, right? And say, hey, I know you're my block captain. I'm not home right now. I just wanted to let you know that I'm safe. Nobody else is in my home. Just kind of listen and see if you might want to just double check, make sure there's no gas leaks or anything around the outside of our home. But we are safe. And that will be really helpful, that your block captain can communicate that to the zone leader and to the command center. All right, so fun. So we're about halfway through this little training. I know it's probably a little longer than we've had in the past, but I wanted to let you know about an upcoming West Jordan City communications drill that will be happening on September 30th of 2024 from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So the West Jordan City is trying to coordinate their communication between all the different utilities and facility maintenance people in our city. Their hope is that they can have their communications all set up so they will know when to dispatch different utility personnel to different areas in the city to take care of big problems. Like if we have a big sewage leak, or if we have a collapse of one of our bridges, or if a street is down, or there's just a lot of things that could happen if we don't have power, and lots of things could happen, right? We could have flooding, and so our city is hoping to coordinate their efforts and be more quick to respond to these kind of emergencies. So they're going to open, West Jordan City will be opening up their operations system, or their emergency operations center at City Hall. They're going to open it up that day. Crews from the Public Works and Public Utilities will be out working and training and problem solving. How are they going to take care of these problems that happen during an emergency? They are actually going to be deploying trucks and equipment. And so you may notice that there could be road closures or delays in West Jordan on this day during this drill. So just kind of be aware of that as you're moving about your day. Red Cross will be setting up an emergency shelter and practicing that. They've asked that we supply some victims. So if you're interested in being a victim on the 30th, we'll talk a little bit about who you can contact for that. But they have asked the LDS stakes and wards to participate. Because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is organized geographically, they have found that it's really helpful to work with the church in these emergency preparedness efforts, because they're geographical. Other religions are also helping in the effort, but because people come from all over to go to a church in one area, they're not really geographically based, and so they're helping in the LDS framework of the geographical locations as well. So that's why we are participating in this way. Midvale, I think they said Midvale will also be participating, but they're not quite sure to what extent. They're meeting sometime this week to talk about how they are going to participate as well. The Jordan School District and possibly the Granite School District will be participating. And we'll kind of figure out what that means. In an emergency event, our elementary schools become kind of our emergency response places of contact. Sometimes they do reunification through the elementary schools. They set up a command center at the elementary schools. Our communications person will be communicating with the stake, who will be communicating with the elementary school reunification hub. If there are people are in school during an event, so we can make sure that the children get back to their families. So all of that will be taken care of, and hopefully this Jordan School District will be able to play. Our neighborhood, because we are in the Terra Linda boundaries, Terra Linda would be our command center for our city area. Again, the exercise is scheduled for 9 to 4 because, it's a Monday and disasters are never really convenient. But we've decided that we are going to do our own little exercise before that. So the city has asked that our neighborhood do our rapid assessment prior to September 30th. They're hoping that if we can do our assessment and kind of get some numbers, we're just going to kind of play a game, and we're going to pretend that every block is going to go out and everybody's going to post their communication cards on their doors. The block captains are going to assess their area, contact their zone leaders. Zone leaders will send that report to the communication specialist, who will communicate with the stake, and we'll send our stake or our group numbers into the city on the 30th. But we're going to actually do all the work on a Saturday when there's more people at home, more people available to help and practice this communication. So again, we're just going to play, we're going to practice so that we can help the city kind of get numbers, and you never know, we might have some utility trucks that are sent to our neighborhood to help with an imaginary disaster. So it might be kind of fun. This is the report that our communication specialist will be filling out based on the report of the block captains and zone leaders. So again, they're just going to put person's name, contact info, their address, how many occupants are living in the home. They're going to ask about life safety. So these are things that the block captains will be assessing. So you're going to look at life safety, whether there's deaths, severe injury, that would be your red, deaths would be your black, minor injuries would be yellow, and then if they're trapped, that's another thing that we're going to assess, is if they're trapped. Utilities, we're going to check for power, water leaks, gas leaks, other things like that. Property damage, whether there's damage to walls, roofs, windows, if there's flood or fire. Infrastructure damage, again, streets, power lines, bridges, flood, fire. So you can kind of see this is what we're going to be assessing through this when we do this play scenario coming up on the 28th. Again, they are asking for a couple volunteers to be victims. They only need about 20 to 30. They're going to be moulaged and made up to have different injuries. They think that it's going to be about 6 hours on the 30th between taking them to an emergency shelter and getting them to the hospital. They will be transporting people. So they recommend, if you're interested in being one of their victims, that you go to the DI and get old clothes to wear, no jewelry. They say jewelry. I always say that word wrong. They said that the stuff they use for blood can stain clothes really bad. So they recommend just old clothes, but I'll give you the contact information if you're interested in being a victim for our city drill on the 30th. They're also going to have water stations if we don't have access to water. So if anybody wants to bring we're going to find out where their pods are going to be. They're going to have these big water trucks. And so if you want to go and take a 5-gallon water bucket and go to one of the pods on the 30th and fill up your water, they're just going to practice getting water distributed to the different neighborhoods. So we'll find out where these pods of water will be located. And if you're interested, let me know and I'll let you know. You can go practice getting water from a water pod in the city. But I do recommend that you have your own water stored. They're also requesting that we have some amateur radio if you're interested, if you're a ham radio operator and you're interested in working in the emergency command center at City Hall. They have some shifts, so I'll give you the information for that as well. So here's the information if you're interested in volunteering. Again, you reach out to the liaison officer, Ariel Campos, and he will help you put together or help you know where you can show up and train and be part of this emergency response on the 30th if you're interested. Those ham radio operators that are interested in helping, you can go on Monday, the 16th of September at 6 p.m. They're going to have kind of an emergency net practice. So the frequency is 145.73. So you're welcome to join that if you're interested. And I think they already found their location for their Red Cross shelter, and they'll be letting us know that in the weeks to come. Okay, so in preparation for that city drill, we are going to have our kind of mini neighborhood drill the Saturday before. So Saturday the 28th from just 9 to 10. It's going to be a really short little drill. What we're going to do, it's going to be really simple. First, we're going to have block members. So everybody in the neighborhood is going to place a colored communication card on your front door at 9 a.m. Okay, I'm hoping that we can get everybody to help with this. The more people we get putting on the front door, it's going to give us more practice communicating how our families are doing. So, and I'm just going to tell you, if you want to put a green, that's great. If you want to put a red, that's fun. Just choose what color you want to put on your door and surprise us. Surprise, it could be, what if everybody put a red? I mean, that's a possibility, right? We could have a lot of damage. What would we do if we had homes damaged, if we have people who have serious injuries? It's good practice. So just choose a color, post it on your front door right at 9 a.m. And then we're going to have our block captains assess the welfare of their block using the block captain assessment form. So we're not asking our block captains to actually come to the houses and assess things in person. So if a block captain sees that you have a red on your door, they're going to kind of make up. They're just going to say, this is the house. There's a 13-year-old girl with a broken leg and in severe pain or something like that, right? They're just going to kind of assess, make it up, but they're going to put it on their form. And then they're going to contact their zone leader and communicate that whatever card you posted, they're going to make up the scenario and then send it into their zone leader via a text or call. They can use their radios. If you have block captains, if you have your two-way radios, you can communicate that way. If your zone leader has a radio as well, we're going to encourage everyone who has radios to go to channel 404 that morning. Or if you don't have either of those, if you can pretend that the texting is down, you can also send a runner. So we're just practicing all of these different ways. You can choose how you want to practice. You know, if you're not going to be available and you're a block captain that day, maybe just a quick text would be helpful. You don't know, but you may not be available during an emergency either. So maybe you can't see the cards of the people in your neighborhood because you're at a soccer game that morning. So maybe you could just reach out via text to all the people in your block and just check and ask them what they posted on their front door. So that's just something else that you can do if you're a block captain and you won't be home that morning. Then the zone leaders will report to the communication specialist, Dave Butterfield, which will be fantastic. He's going to keep that report and he's going to send that report to our state communications, Mike Leverage, who is going to report that information to the city on Monday. So I think it would be fun to have like a competition between all of the zones, and we'll see how quickly the different zones can get all of their information into the communication specialist. I think it would be really fun just to have a little competition, and it'll be really fun. So that again is Saturday, September 28th. We'll talk a little bit more about this, of course, at our live meeting tomorrow. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me, Krista Pace. My number is 801-554-2538. I'm happy to help answer any questions that you may have about this drill. So let's practice. We are actually going to practice this at our live training. We have several scenarios, and we're just going to kind of talk through a couple things as we go. But I wanted to include some of these scenarios here so that if you're not able to attend our training tomorrow, that you can start thinking about what you would do in the event that we have a disaster in our area. One thing that I've noticed is the more we practice, the less anxiety we have, and we can be creative, right? If we're not in shock and worried about the safety of our community, we think a lot better. So the more we practice, the better off we are, the better we can respond in the event of an emergency. So we're going to kind of pretend that we're having a 6.4 earthquake, okay? Our 6.4 earthquake has just rocked our neighborhood. You've assessed your home and your family. You found that everything's well. You walk your block. You're a block captain, okay? You walk your block and you find that the majority of the homes have posted a green card on your door. Big sigh of relief, right? I love those green card doors. You ask a couple green door neighbors to help you assist other homes. I do recommend that when you're going to a home, that you take one or two people with you. So you can send a runner if you need to. So for your own safety, it's good to have other people with you. So find some people who have green on their doors, ask them to come help you assess the other homes in your neighborhood. Okay. So you're going around your block and you see a red card on a home, and then you see a home that has a yellow card. Of course, you're going to go to that red home first, and you assess that someone inside the red card is seriously bleeding and they're in shock. So you're going to complete your assessment form. You're going to write down where you're at, what's happening, that there's a serious bleeding, and that you need help. You're going to report that to your zone leader. Then what would you do? Would you just leave the home? Would you make sure that they have things under control? If you have medical background, maybe we know that, if somebody's in shock, you can lay them down, put their feet up, especially if the bleeding is on their leg, you want to put the bleeding above their heart. So you can make sure that somebody is there taking care of their immediate need. That they have some first aid supplies, they're applying pressure. There's a lot of things you can make sure that their family members are doing while they wait for the emergency medical task team to show up if that's needed. It's going to take a while for us to kind of put people together. Remember, everybody's going to be taking care of their own homes first. So it might be some time before we get the task teams organized to send for medical help. So whatever the family can do, however you can support the family in taking care of their own injuries, the better. Again, if you have medical training, you're welcome to help assist. If you don't, you can even communicate that to your zone leader, and we can get somebody over there as soon as we can who might have medical training even before our command center is officially set up. So this is why communication is going to be so important, because some of these injuries could be life-threatening if not taken care of right away. So hopefully we would make sure that they're kind of stable, even if they're red and bleeding and in shock, we can get them stabilized. And then you would go and check on the yellow card home. I do recommend, if you've got red cards, that you contact your zone leader first before you take care of all the yellows. So let's get that help coming as quickly as you can. Okay. Okay, same scenario. Let's say that you and your green carded neighbors are going around and you see two yellow card homes. You assess that both homes have structural damage. One home's roof is caved in on one side and the other has several broken windows. Nobody's injured. The house is not unsafe to be in as long as they stay away from the debris and the elements that are over there. So what would you do? You could complete your assessment form, say that there's structural damage, describe that structural damage, report it to the zone leader so the zone leader can report it to the communication specialist. Once we get our command center set up, we will probably have a construction crew over to come help clean up and do what we can to keep that home habitable in case there are elements like rain or snow or stuff coming like that. So we'll do the best we can under the circumstances while we're waiting for professionals to come in and help. Our biggest our biggest goal for structural damage is to keep the home habitable if possible. It's going to be a lot easier to house people in their own homes than try to find housing outside of their home. I do recommend that if people have tents and your home is uninhabitable, you can live in your backyard in your tent pretty well. So have access to your camping gear. All right. So next one, same scenario. Maybe you see a red card and a yellow card. You assess that there's a gas leak in the red card home. So you get there and they're like, they don't know what to do. There's a gas leak. And so they're like, I need emergent help now. They're really worried about this gas leak. Maybe it's an elderly homeowner who can't find their gas key. So you can send the assessment to your zone leader, of course. If you have access to a gas key, or you could send one of the people that are with you to go to their house and get their gas key and go and help them turn off their gas if there's a gas leak. We do have a lot of elderly people in our neighborhood, so having access to gas keys and water keys will be really helpful. Again, after you communicate the red need, you can go check on the yellow need and see what you need to do next. All right. Next, let's say things are a little different. So what if the same earthquake has come, your family's doing well, you walk your block and you find that all the homes on your block have green cards on their doors. You're so lucky, right? As a block captain, that's your block captain dream. Everybody's okay. No stress, right? You can complete your assessment form, mark everybody green, report it to your zone leader. And when you report it in, your zone leader says, hey, would you be willing to check on another block? Because this block captain is out of town, and I would really appreciate it if you could go and check on this other block. Of course, as an agreeable, helpful block captain, you ask a few of your green door neighbors to go and help assess the other homes. So when you get to those homes, you find that you have a red card home. And when you arrive and assess the situation, you find that a pipe has broken in the home and there's water actively flooding the basement. What are you going to do, right? The occupants can't find their water shutoff key. You see that this is a problem. Again, you could send one of the people that are with you for their water shutoff key, turn off the water, stop the influx of water, and then report it to the zone leader. If you're able, you could help them start to remove the water from their basement, clean things up. If you're not able to do that, that's okay too, but the zone leader will communicate that to the command center and we'll try to get a task team over there to help them with that water cleanup in the short term. So thank you for your willingness, if everybody's green on your block, to keep helping as needed. Also, what if there's an earthquake and you're out of town on vacation, but you're a block captain? What do you do? And you hear about this big earthquake in your neighborhood. What if you just reached out to everybody on your block and say, hey, I'm out of town, but I just wanted to make sure that you're doing okay. Did you post your card on your thing on your front door? I will reach out to the zone leader, make sure somebody is sent over to check on you, make sure you're okay. That would mean a lot to the people on your block. So let's say that you do that, you reach out to everybody and most of them are green. They posted their green cards and you remind some people to do that and they post it or they put their green cards on their door, but you can't get a hold of one person. This is all about checking on the one, right? You could call your zone leader, let them know that maybe you assign a neighbor that you can get a hold of and say, hey, could you go check on this house for me? I can't get a hold of them. I don't know if they're even home, but can you just look and see if you can hear if anybody needs help? And that would be really helpful. So you could kind of ask somebody else to be your fill-in block captain for you, and then reach out to your zone leader, let them know what's happening. Tell them that you got a hold of everybody except for this one person and you sent one of your neighbors to go check on them, and the zone leader can always follow up and make sure things are going okay. I know it's kind of asking a lot to have block captains check on their block if they're not home, if they're on vacation or if they're away from home and there's an emergency. And it's not required. It's just if you feel like you want to do that, I I think that would be awesome. If you don't want to and you're not available, we're still going to have people come and check on your block while you're gone. Again, any neighbor, if the block captain's not there, any neighbor can be a block captain. So I don't want you to feel like you have to reach out to people if you're not home and there's an emergency. But if you want to and you have their phone numbers in your phone, it's just nice to do, but it's not required. So don't feel like you don't want to be a block captain because you don't want to reach out on a vacation. That's not important. So just whatever, however, if you want to be creative, it's more about just reaching out to people you're caring about. Okay, just a couple more of these real quick. Again, the earthquake rocked our neighborhood. You've assessed your home and family, everything's well. You walk your block and find that the majority of homes are green, so a couple of your green friends are helping you. You see a red card and a yellow card. You assess and somebody inside the red card home is trapped under multiple layers of debris when a roof has collapsed. The person's alive but struggling to breathe. So again, you're going to complete your assessment form. Make sure you get it to your zone leader right away for that red home so they can send over in a task. It's possible that the person under can't breathe because they're being crushed. It could be they're stressed and they have anxiety and they're worried and they have maybe some um, shock going on. There's lots of things that could cause that. So kind of assess the situation. If you feel comfortable to kind of help, whether it's if they have masks that they could, it might be the debris causing problems with breathing. There's a lot of things that could happen in these scenarios. And really, I don't have one thing that would be the best to do in this situation other than, just support the family and wait to get people there to help remove the debris. If you feel like it's safe to remove debris, sometimes you have to be careful when people are trapped because sometimes you can move something and it could make things worse. So really, I think it's good to find people who are trained professionals to be able to help you in this effort. Again, just reach out. You can reach out to the yellow people later, right? Really focus on those red homes first. Okay, what if you walk your block and find that all the homes have posted a green card on their door? You call the others in the block who live in another neighborhood. We have a few people who are in our ward boundaries for our church, but they live in other neighborhoods. So we are just going to check on them as well. So it's good to have phone numbers if the phone system is working. We're hoping that they will be taken care of in their neighborhoods as well, but it's always good just to reach out. And this is good for any of your family members too. If you have extended family, I encourage you to reach out to your extended family in the area and check on them. Um, it would be nice if all the neighborhoods were organized and could take care of the things that are needed, but it is possible that not every neighborhood is fully prepared. And I'm really hoping we can get our neighborhood fully prepared so we can reach out and help our neighboring neighborhoods as well. Hey, what if you're a block captain and somebody inside your house needs emergent help? Do you send that to the zone leader and then go check the other houses? No. As you don't need to check other houses if your house and your people in your house are in need of help. You stay with your people and you take care of your people first. That's the most important thing. The other houses on the block will wait. Even if there's emergencies, their family will be taking care of their family. So most important thing as a block captain and for any neighbor is to take care of your immediate family first before you go helping others. It really is important to take care of your family first. Reach out to your zone leader. You can request help through your zone leader or through your other neighbors if needed. Same thing with your home. If you have damage to your home, you need to stay and take care of your home. If you've got a gas leak, turn off your gas. If you have a water leak, turn off your water to take care of your home. Make sure it's habitable. If you feel like it's a yellow structural damage and not a huge emergency and a huge deal, yes, you can go and check your block and everything. But if you've got some severe structural damage and need to take care of it right away, you could reach out to a neighbor and just have the neighbor step up as the block captain, and they can assess the neighborhood while you stick with your home and start working on taking care of that. You also, if your home is uninhabitable, you may need to relocate your family, whether that's to a different neighbor's house or to bring them to the command center, and we can see, we won't have really a place to house anybody for a while until the church is deemed safe and open for use. But take care of your family and their safety and security before you reach out and to help others. And this could just go on forever, right? Are you feeling like that? I just wanted to give you a few scenarios so that you could kind of think about what could happen. Honestly, in a disaster situation, there's a lot of things that could happen. So you're welcome to read through the rest of these things and kind of think what you would do. If you haven't purchased a two-way radio, of course, you can send a runner again. So we don't live that far away from each other. We can run to get help from the neighbors. Um, this one, again, if somebody has minor injuries, needs first aid help, you can send a runner to get that as well. If your zone leader is not available, you can send the runner all the way to the command center to talk directly to the communication specialist so we can get a task team assigned to that area. So if your zone leader is not available, you can still contact the command center. So we're going to go through all of these scenarios at our training on Sunday, and I'm just going to ask them how they felt about it. They're going to actually have these scenarios written up on their cards. They're going to have to process through the information, record the information, communicate that to their zone leaders and to the communication specialist. And we're just going to ask, like, how did it go? Did you know what to do? Were you nervous about things? Like, we're just gonna ask and kind of debrief a little bit and see how it went. So I encourage you to kind of go through these scenarios in your own mind. What would you do in these situations? What would you do if everybody on your block was a red? Like, we can only do one thing at a time. We do the best that we can. Um, I really believe that as we work together and as we slow down, slow our hearts down, we're gonna be anxious, right? We're gonna feel that anxiety, that nervousness. That's just normal. It's human to have that disaster response in our own bodies, right? So if we can kind of slow down a little bit, reach out to our zone leaders, ask for help, I'm hoping that we will see miracles happen in our neighborhood because people are willing to help each other. So thank you. Thank you for being with me for this hour. I know it's kind of been a long training, but I hope this information has been helpful. Those of you who are block captains, I hope you're excited to be a block captain, to reach out to your neighbors, to get to know them more. Um, I don't want to say I'm excited for an emergency event or a disaster event, but I am kind of excited to see how our neighborhood shows up for each other. Sometimes it's easy to stay in our homes, shut our garages and come right into our houses. Summer's a little better because we're more outside walking around the neighborhood and meeting people. But I really believe that we have the highest quality of people in our neighborhood. And we just care about each other, and we will care about each other if there is a disaster where there will be a lot of people that need help. And I just believe that everybody's going to show up and we are not going to have to worry about too many things because we are here for each other. So thank you for spending this time with me through this training today. I hope you receive some good information and I hope you have a great time preparing. Again, reach out to me if you have any questions about this training. I will be getting booklets to all the block captains and zone leaders so that they have access to all this information as well. But reach out to me if you have questions. If you want to serve, if you want to help in any way, I'm always looking for volunteers. Thanks again. Have a good night.